Hey everybody, Bobby Jones here, also known as Mr. Brightside, and this is the next episode of the Xtra Mile podcast. I got my man George Dobbins here. He's going to blow your guys' mind with some of the value that he brings every single day, not just to his business, but to his community, so stay tuned.
Your success is on the other side of your comfort zone. See, that's the difference between me and those other guys. I wanted it more than they did. I wanted it enough to get uncomfortable. I wanted it enough to go the extra mile. Do you want it bad enough? Do you want it bad enough to go the extra mile?
Cool. What's up, George, my man? Mr. Dobbins himself in the flesh.
Man, so good to be here.
It's awesome, dude. It's awesome. So George has a awesome business here, as do a lot of the guests that we've had on this show. But man, you know, when you meet somebody that you know, like, it just goes so much deeper, so much more beyond the business, right? Where the value is actually coming from an individual. This is one of those guys. We actually sat down for the first time for a long conversation about some of the racial inequalities that were going on in the world, which was really cool to be able to sit down and have an open-minded conversation. So, you know, that's something that just is another testament and a compliment to your ability to contribute to, you know, not just, you know, some of the things that are going on in the business world, but socially as well. So, give it a second. Tell everybody a little bit about who you are. You can talk about your main business and things like that as well, and just a quick little intro bio type of thing.
For sure. Hey, Bobby, thanks. Before I go any further, I just wanted to bring light back to that conversation that we did have. I thought that was very just timely for one. It was very informative to be able to speak about it, you know, what we were experiencing as a society within not just our state, but, you know, throughout the world. But with that, it just showed just a little bit of your openness and your open-mindedness to just hearing out and having discussion, which I thought was really cool. And again, that was one of our first times we did sit down and have a conversation. So I will definitely keep that. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, man.
I'm George Dobbins. I've been serving the community here since 2006 with a business called CrossFit Dover. And we were actually, so quick tidbit, we're actually the first CrossFit gym in the state of Delaware in 2006. Really? And we've been rock and rolling since. Yeah.
So you set the trend.
Man, we did. We really did. But at the same time, we've when you set that trend, you learn, and you also, I don't call it, you win and you learn, right? So you never fail, you win and you learn, and we did a lot of learning. So yeah, we set the trend. But yeah, so CrossFit Dover, first, just quick tidbit, first CrossFit affiliate in the state. And with that, I am married to my wife. Her name is Brooke. And we have an amazing little guy, and his name is Bingham. So yeah.
It's awesome, man. It's awesome. So, yeah, so it's super cool, man, because when you talk about this awesome little guy, man, he is a rock star, and he's a big part of like why you do what you do every single day, right? Like it's huge, man. And so we talk about a lot on the Xtra Mile podcast, the struggles of business and how we've started businesses. And so I do want you to take us back to that point, you know, maybe even dive a little deeper into like how you've navigated through your life towards this point, briefly, right? But definitely to the point where you started your business and what decisions, what things were going through your mind at that time. Because first of all, I want my listeners to hear it, but I don't know this story yet. So, you know what I mean? Like, I want to know. These are some of the questions I would ask anyway. Yeah. So I want to know your journey a little bit.
Yeah. So I'll give you, just like you mentioned, just a quick version of it. So I come from a fairly large family. I'm one of six.
Are you from this area, or?
Actually, we transitioned to Delaware in '91 when Mount Pinatubo erupted. So I was born in the Philippines.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
And we were there for a few years, and then Mount Pinatubo, an active volcano on the island, erupted, which brought us from Manila to Dover, Delaware. And Dover specifically, the Air Force Base, because my father is Air Force.
Gotcha.
So one of six.
Transitioned
to Delaware. Transitioned through school at the Air Force Base, and then Cesar Rodney High School. Okay. From there, graduation hit. And, you know, when it came to having further education after high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do or how that looked. I did know two things. One, I enjoyed fitness, where I picked up weightlifting as a sophomore in high school, and then actually a junior in high school. And then I enjoyed being around people. So high school came, transitioned to the work field, had maybe a few different part-time jobs in the area. And from there, I fell in love with CrossFit, and that was in 2006. So from that point, it was, we started at a park, Silver Lake Park. As a matter of fact, Bobby, we actually celebrated 13 years during the pandemic, and it was a surprise. It was a surprise, almost like a parade that went through Silver Lake Park. It was pretty awesome.
That's so cool, man. That's so cool. So you guys just met at Silver Lake and just said, okay, we're going to start it here, and just a group of you. Was it a business then, or was it just for exercise and fitness? Yeah.
So it was. So prior to that, it was formerly Gold's Gym.
Okay.
Right where Club Fitness is.
Yeah.
Yep. Right here on the highway, and I was the training director, and I did a lot. That's actually where I received a lot of my experience in the field, was being there. From that point, I was introduced to CrossFit by a buddy, and he was like, hey, you got to try this workout just like anything else. So we dove right in, and that's when I knew it was what I was currently doing was not improving fitness. A workout that was intended to be completed within 15 to 18 minutes. It took me just about 62 minutes. It was over an hour before I finished this workout. So that's when I knew that something was wrong. Like either I'm doing something wrong and I was doing something wrong.
Right. You're like, but I can lift so much.
Oh man. So that was, so prior to, I had an existing clientele that I would service at formerly Gold's Gym. And when they understood we were making the transition to something a little bit different, and that really stemmed from, if I was going to service my clients the best that I can, I want to understand that I am giving them everything that I have. And that means improving fitness. And that was a big part of what we did. And that workout for me was an eye-opening experience, but it was also an experience that we just never looked back. So that's how it started. We started with a few workouts there, and then we kind of transitioned into Silver Lake Park because we had nowhere else to go. So it was weekend workouts, Saturday mornings, going out. It was March. You think that it would be somewhat spring, and it was cold. They were come out with coats and scarves and gloves, and yeah, it was the real deal.
Yeah,
they were diehards.
Yeah, my birthday is March 5th, so I know that it's not as spring as everybody tries to make it seem. Man, that's amazing. So, all right, so I love what you said there, because it was like, if I really have my client's best interest in mind, right, then I have to understand that that's a journey, not a destination, right? So like when things change and new realizations come, there's a lot of people out there that would probably be a little bit hesitant to admit and pivot and change, right? Because they've been like preaching one thing for so long. They're like, okay, I've been saying this is the best forever. How do I go back on that?
Right.
No, but when you really believe that you have your client's best interest in mind, you owe that to them as well. You owe the change to them as well, right?
100%.
Yeah. I
Absolutely.
love that, dude. I love that. Do you think there's any piece of advice that you can give somebody that might be going through that, where they've kind of like, really, really gone one direction for so long, and now that something new or a realization has come along, how to embrace that and try to kind of make sure that they can move that direction versus like holding on to their pride and sticking to their original plan? Yeah.
So I would suggest the first thing you want to do is gain clarity, right? So it's knowing what it is you are looking to accomplish. And you got to be very specific with that. And if you are, in return, you'll be able to adapt and evolve as needed. But if you're not so clear, it's very easy for you to get wishy-washy. And that's when you get in trouble. Yeah. So if anybody, to answer your question, Bobby, you just got to gather and gain clarity, and you got to be specific. So that's how I would inform, or that's the that's the tidbit that the feedback that I would give in that element. Does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I just thought that was super strong because I think that's something that, especially as entrepreneurs and business owners, we get this sense of pride, you know what I mean? We've come so far in one direction, and that's what ends up creating the traditions that hold back some industries, right? Like that same kind of mindset. Oh, well, we've stuck to this for so long, and now we've got to kind of hold to our guns and keep going. But you're right. When you have a specific intention in mind, and that is fueling everything else,
that's it.
Then how is sticking to your guns even a consideration then, right?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I mean, classic example, 2006 when I had my first CrossFit exposure.
Okay.
Right? Prior to that, 2001, leading up to 2006, I competed in bodybuilding for a couple of years, and I was the conventional means of training, right?
Right.
And, with that, I'd service a wide range of clientele, right? From 67, 68-year-old who double knee replacement, and just their motive is to stay out of the nursing home.
Yeah.
All the way to the football player or high school athlete, or even someone that's dabbling in recreational bodybuilding and wanting to compete in the first show. So it was a wide range, but what was clear to me is that fitness, it varies by degree, not by kind. We all have to have some capacity to press, to squat, to lift, to push, to pull. So with that, when I had my first exposure to CrossFit and understanding that, I knew that's the direction in which I needed to head into, especially if you have people depending on you that are wanting you to keep them out of the nursing home.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's what I was referring to when I said that clarity. So obviously when CrossFit came on the scene and, we started introducing it, there was a lot of, he say, she say. There's, hey, did you see that online? There was YouTube videos, and there was, so with that, you just, again, you clear out the static, and you understand what is it that you are looking to do. You get that clarity. And for me, it was improving the quality of life. So if I knew that what I was doing was indeed doing that, it just gave me the clarity, it gave me the go. So that's what we did.
George, there's so much there, man, I want to dive into. One of which is the people that are like, oh, you heard this on the internet, or you saw this article or whatever. It's amazing how much, especially with the internet, how in the beginning, it really wow, we can get the truth to everyone. And then it became, we can get our version of the truth to everyone. And then it became, holy smokes, can we even find the truth through everything?
Yeah.
Right. And it's that is the bizarre transition that the internet took us through, because what is real? And I'll tell you what, from the outside looking in, and the observation that I made is that CrossFit in general just disrupted the traditional word of fitness in general.
Absolutely.
And because, it was hey, let's go get strong. And now it's let's go get fit, right? Let's go get healthy.
Yeah.
Right. And so that, I feel and maybe I'm wrong and you'll correct me, but CrossFit then kind of all these other trends and things like that just embraced the word fitness, kind of came as a sub part of CrossFit disrupting the industry.
For sure. And you said correct you, and no correction there, but I will tell you that it very much was exactly how you just described it. So comes on the scene, and when we're so used to doing the day-to-day, the mundane, the normal, and when you have something that comes in the mix that challenges that, I can understand how you can either evolve with what is to be, or you can just try to stand your grounds. And I believe there was quite a bit of that was happening when this kind of service and essentially came out and blew up. Because honestly, the way that it was before you had affiliates, it was a CrossFit.com. So you would log on to CrossFit.com, you would see the workout of the day, and then from there, you would go ahead and take yourself through the workout of the day, and then you would post your time or your score. So it was this very global just cascade of, people going on and seeing the workout, logging their score, you checking the leaderboard and seeing who was where and who was doing what. And then from there, that's when the affiliate model started to evolve, and just now there's over 15,000 affiliates worldwide.
Holy smokes.
But I bring that up because when it first surfaced, no one would have thought, right? It was holding on to what it is that we are currently doing, and we're going to do that until we can't do anymore.
Yeah.
And I say that, Bobby, and I say that there's a space and a place for anything and everything. It's just, what is it that you are looking to get out of what you're doing?
Yes.
Right. And for us, it was improving fitness, not so much aesthetics, but I will tell you that was something that just was almost a side effect of what was happening, right? But that wasn't our main focus.
No, right.
But when
just a benefit of.
exactly,
Right.
yeah. But when we're so consumed, or we're driven by more so the exterior, we want to be able to hold on to that as much as we can.
Yeah.
So that's what I was referencing to.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah, it does. And so again, like when my observation, and just especially hearing you, like it was like the fitness world, and I don't even like using the word fitness in this, because it's like the bodybuilding world, right? Was appearance results driven. Whereas CrossFit is performance results driven,
Yep.
right?
Functional strength.
Yeah.
Got it.
Like,
functionality, practicality.
So that, which is cool, because I love everything that's results driven in the first place, but I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, because while we could dive super deep into all this,
right.
and I've got tons of questions, but I want to keep the timeline right. So we're at Silver Lake, right? And we're crushing it there. We've got the workouts coming in, scarves, hats, coats, everything's coming in. How does that mature and transform from there to what it is today?
Yeah. So Silver Lake was just a 1 time a week deal for us.
Yeah.
So we would meet out there 8:30, 9 o'clock, and we'd perform what we had to do, our workout of the day. And from that point, we'd run out and grab breakfast. And eventually it evolved into, all right, well, the need now grew to, hey, how can we implement this during the week? And at that point, we had nowhere to go. And there was a gentleman who owned a karate school off of Route 10, and he offered us a place to come into during the week, where he was, obviously they weren't running classes during the day because his clientele was majority students. So we found a place there. So it was Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So from 1 time a week, we're doing 3 times a week, offering a partial monthly membership. And we did that until we started ripping holes in his mats with our dumbbells. So that was not the
Best fit.
Yeah, that's probably the best word for it. Yeah, it definitely wasn't the best fit. So from there, we eventually found ourselves in a small place in Camden. So we're transitioned from Silver Lake to a short stint there on Route 10 at a martial arts school, and then now we're in the Camden Business Park. So we're in the Camden Business Park on Brenda Lane, and 1,200 square feet, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1,200 square feet. So that's when we knew, hey, it's time to be a big boy.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually rented in there for a little while with Brightside. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, Steve, we're finding new similarities right here through this conversation.
That's funny.
That's awesome, man. So yeah, what a change it's been since then, and it's amazing to see. It's amazing to watch. It's also amazing that what I see, especially, and this. This is the question I'll pose to you for sure, is like, there's this incredible amount of fitness and personal improvement with fitness, right? When you get your body right, you get your mind right?
Absolutely.
Like, can you shine some light on that a little bit and talk about how much, like, the two, like, when you're getting your body right and you're performing the way that you are, it requires the discipline, all these things. How does that also correlate to the mental fitness and the mental health as well?
Yeah. So let me answer that, Bobby. I will tell you, it's a really great question. A lot of times people will put physical before mental, right? Just because you think about exercise and you think about It's you actively going and doing, right? So there's action that has to be taken, action that is taken. And from that point, I believe that if that is your sole purpose or your driving factor, is this you going and moving, then that might be a short-lived effort. I like the ideal of taking a mental approach, because I will tell you, when you can make your mind up, right? When you can mentally commit to something, whether it's your work, whether it's exercise, whether it's training, I believe that you'll have a better outcome, a stronger outcome. So when you talk about the physical, the mental, yes, exercise is very much both. But when it comes to the benefit of, we understand that a lot of people do it for stress relief, right? Stress relief. There's your ability to be able to essentially look good, look better,
Sure.
work on your body, and
Confidence,
that plays a lot within your headspace. So although the correlation is the same, or there's a correlation between the two, there's such a dramatic improvement within the mindset just from exercise alone. But if you go in and you're just trying to you're willpowering your way through exercise and training, I just believe that you can only go so long.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so I have a couple questions real quick.
Yeah.
So I love that, right? Because like I feel like there is, and again, you're gonna have a much better perspective than I am, but I feel like there's an unhealthy way of physically working out as well, right? Like if you're just doing it maybe to take out anger or frustrations, but you're not actually resolving those anger or frustrations, it might not be so healthy. Or if you're trying to like feed a degree or maybe even overcome a degree of self-confidence issues, and you're trying to use the physical improvements on your body to overcome that, whereas there's something deeper within that's not even going to get resolved through that improvement physically, right?
For sure.
The other thing I wanted to mention was, and I think it's Will Smith that put this video together a while ago, and he talks about like self-discipline and self-love and how the two really have a lot of connection to each other. How, when you truly love yourself, right, you can feel like, while as tempting as staying on the couch and watching TV is when you're supposed to be at Dover CrossFit, right? CrossFit Dover, your discipline and self-love makes you know that you owe it to yourself, right? Not to anybody else, not to George, not to any. I owe it to myself to get up and go do what I'm supposed to do, because that's the commitment I've made to myself, and I love myself, and I'm of course going to be disciplined to what I promised myself.
Yeah. And I can actually add to that, Bobby.
Please do.
So I will tell you this, a lot of times their relationship with exercise is backwards. Right. And this is what I mean by that. So exercise is something that we're supposed to come into with a certain level of enjoyment.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that we can receive from that. But a lot of times people use it as a certain level of punishment. Right. So let me explain. You indulge too much over the weekend,
yes.
Right? You eat more than you intended to. You drink more than you intend to. You just overindulge with too much. And now you wake up Monday morning and now you're like, well, I need to go to the gym. And that need now isn't I need to go to the gym because I enjoy it and this is what brings me happiness. It's now I need to go to the gym because I need to work off X, Y, or Z. And don't get me wrong, there is that balance of work, play, and we want to be able to enjoy what it is that we consume, and obviously moderation. Mm-hmm. But I believe that the relationship can go wrong, and it becomes not a fulfilling feeling, and it ends up being more like a punishment, right?
Yes.
So, and that's what we try to correct, right? So you had a bad weekend. You had a weekend where you probably overindulged too much. Fine, so be it. Let it be, right? Let's not bring that into your next workout, because at that point, you're not going to work hard enough, right? You're going to end that workout, man, I should have worked harder. And it's not going to be long enough. You're going to want to do more. And that just in return brings this negativity into the relationship between you and exercise. And that's one thing that we really try to correct when it comes to when we introduce CrossFit or this movement activity to anybody that wants to come in and work on just that relationship with them and exercise.
Yeah, man. Maybe so. It's interesting you say that, because now I'm like thinking, okay, my daughters are cheerleaders, gymnasts, and if they do something wrong in cheer or gym, right, they're made to run laps.
Right.
They probably hate running now, right? Because it's like to them the same connection, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
The same exact connection is they feel like this is rather than embracing what the running is doing for them physically,
For sure.
they're feeling punished.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. What's also really interesting about all of this is, we talk about like this, the workouts and the exercises and the endurance. And, I've always, and maybe again, I'm wrong, but if you take your muscles to the point of failure, right, that's usually when they grow the most. Is that correct? Or is that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So in business, right, we see that a lot, right? But we're so afraid of failure. We don't talk about our failures nearly enough. Is there times throughout your business, and maybe not failures, but where there were like extreme bumps in the road that you think stand out more than others, as far as the way that you overcame those, the way that you pushed through, the way that you grew from, that you could share with us, and maybe share with some of the listeners, because they're going to see that in their businesses as they're growing, and the more this, like the irons in the golf bag, right, the more tools they have to overcome them, the better.
Yeah. So Bobby, you mentioned that question, and the first thing that comes to my mind is our expansion, how we expanded. So 2006 is when we affiliated, and that's when we started. All right. So business was off the road. 2006, CrossFit Dover was full in effect. 2008 is when we transitioned to a second location. So we had 2 years under our belt, and we made that move. And although anybody within business, if you've been in business, and if you, no matter, I don't think it's so much of a landmark of a year, like whether it's 1 year or whether it's 5 years, whether it's 10 years, on how you go about expanding. But it's more so about just having the proper placements of people, right? So being able to have a team in place that you can make that transition. So to answer your question, 2006, we affiliated. 2008, we opened up a second affiliation in Middletown called CrossFit First State.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Yeah. So we branched out into a second affiliate, and that lasted for a year. And we ran that at a very much of a part-time affiliate. We were there maybe 3 to 4 days out of the week, and it wasn't a full service. It wasn't a full scheduled gym. So from that point, we had to make a decision. Are we going to pass this off, close it down, renew at least a term for another year? And at that point, I think we made the right decision. And we sold CrossFit First State to a buddy of mine. His name is Judd Dean. And Judd, in return, operated that affiliate for several years later. And so that was the growth that happened from there. It was really very much a impulse. 2006, 2008, let's go and open up a second affiliate. So then we did it again, and we opened up a second affiliate in Smyrna, CrossFit 1806, and it was a different story. It was a different story, but same lesson though. Same lesson, different story, and our approach there with that second affiliate, the third affiliate we opened, but the second one within our within our possession. We have a really great staff. I'll have to share this with you.
Yeah, please go ahead, man.
If you're listening, our team at CrossFit Dover is amazing. And we took that team and we split that team into two. So we took the second team, they transitioned to the Smyrna area, to CrossFit 1806, and we ran a really great affiliate for 5 years. It came to a point where it was now time to make a transition. Are we going to maintain doing what we're doing, or are we going to find ways to bring a little bit more life into the rest of my coaching staff? And what I meant by that is the demands that you have, we try to meet as business owners, but then we do that to the sacrifice of the well-being of our team. And that was a lesson in which we learned that no matter the demands, if we're not healthy, like internally within our relationships, our families, our happiness, that it's going to be a short-lived endeavor. And what happened, we had to make a decision, and I believe we made, again, a really great decision. We closed down 1806, and now we are operating with one affiliate out of CrossFit Dover. So that was very much a lesson in which we learn is, although the demand is there, chances are it's always not the best to answer that demands if it's sacrificing the health and the relationships of your team.
Heck yeah. I love that, George. It's funny you say that, and I try not to share my own stories and experiences on here and let my guests share, but when we first started Brightside, we knew that there was a huge demand for our services in the surrounding states. And so quickly people asked us, hey, are we going to offer our services in the other states? And one of the things that we really took and considered was the idea of dragging our team members to those other areas, making their trip home to their loved ones each evening longer, their trip away from their loved ones in the morning, each morning longer. So when you talk about the personal well-being, which we've already chatted a little bit about already, when you had like your team, or not your team, but your client's best interest in mind, that meant the whole package, right? For sure. That meant everything. And the other thing that you brought up, which I really, really love, was like, the personal well-being, the individual happiness of your team members, and then of your team in general, mattered so much. But how important do you think that is for people to really understand that, like, before we go on to serve the world, to serve people, clients, customers, team members, how much we have to work on ourselves, and put that time and effort into really understand what we want as individuals before we even go down this road of entrepreneurship or serving customers, for the people that get the opportunity to go through this ahead of time, because not all the time do that. We have to kind of figure it out as we go, because I've been in business since 2011, and there was a lot I hadn't figured out about myself at that time, I can promise you. But I wish I could have gone back and worked on myself first. How important is that for us to really have our wants and desires like really identified and specific before we go into this?
Yeah. So I believe those wants and desires can change. And I believe that's okay. The thought is, before you can service somebody else, you have got to be able to service yourself. So I'll use an analogy. When you're in a plane, the first thing they tell you to do in the event in which you're going down is to put your own mask on. Yep. And a lot of times it's, if you're not putting your own mask on and working on just what's important to you, whether it's family, relationships, it's going to be a very tough transition to, in return, work on those in which you're servicing, like within your business. And again, those interests and those items will shift and change, but being able to have, and I mentioned this earlier, just clarity on like what it is, like what is it you're looking to attain? Like what is the ultimate goal? And, by identifying that, I believe you're able to, in return, service those around you that much better. But if you're not, if you don't have a certain level of power and certainty within what you're capable of doing, then that level of power and certainty is going to reflect on your ability to help those around you and service those around you. So for me, I talk about that often, the idea of having a certain level of power and certainty, because if you know that you have done you've done all the work, right? Not just the day-to-day work, but you've done the extra work, the extra mile, right? When you know that you have committed the time and the effort and the energy, then in return, you walk with a certain level of power and certainty, knowing that you did what it takes. You did what was needed. And when you're able to do that, it does shed light onto those in which you encounter and those which you service. And so that when we talk about working on ourselves, I believe that from your mental state, from your physical state, from your spiritual state, if you're able to work in those elements and what's important to you, it will reflect and show on the work that you do. So it really is a establishing a certain level of power and certainty that allows for you to be able to service in that manner. At least for me, it is.
Yeah. Dude, it's so huge, man. It's funny because you mentioned something earlier about just being caught up in like the mundane day-to-day activities and how like most and I see that like the average Joe, right? And if your name's Joe, please don't take offense. But it's funny we gotta say that stuff these days, right? But when you're working and you're just getting up in the morning, you're going to work, you're coming home, hang out with the fam, go to bed, same thing every single day, right? You don't get to take a step back, and I always refer to it as like a bird's eye view, right? And you look at your life, and even in business, I love making this recommendation because you can really kind of see where the business stands, where you want it to go. But with your life, if you don't take a second to look at your life from a bird's eye view and step back for a second and just smell the roses and say, okay, is this exactly what I want? Is this exactly who I want to be? Right? And am I doing those things, or can I make some changes that are going to get me closer to that? Then, I think if you haven't done that, you need to do that, right? Because I think it can help you become super clear about what matters the most to you, right? And when you find out what matters the most to you, right, and you have those like core values established, well, then when you go into business or when you serve a client, those things stay top of mind. Yeah. Right. So when you're serving someone and one of your core values might be integrity, or you're like always doing the right thing or whatever, like that's going to be top of mind for you. So it doesn't matter if you have bad news to deliver, you're going to give that bad news, right? Yeah. Instead of not giving it if your core values were something else. But those things that are going to matter the most to you are going to translate into your business and become part of your business every single day. There's a guy, Zach, I'll shout out Zach Babcock from Underdog Empowerment Podcast, who has really kicked ass, but it was funny because his business was like taking off. And then like midway, I seen this guy take a big step back and he just started working on him. And I was like, holy smokes, like how bold. I mean, dude, this guy was getting like all kinds of recognition from everywhere, and just like, boom, out of nowhere was like, you know what? Bump this. I'm not where I want to be yet, so let me work on me. And he did, bro. Like, I tried to hit him up one day because I wanted him to come into one of my clubhouse rooms. He's like, at 4:00, I shut down every single day. Yeah. I'm like, let's go. And I was so happy for him. But that's the thing, like when things like that like truly matter to you, and you know what matters the most to you, like, and you take the time to work on yourself, that will translate over and run into your business. And, I've seen you share on social media a little bit how you did this in 2019, right? You had taken a step back and decided to, remove alcohol from your life. Yeah. Do you want to share with our listeners how that played out for you real quick, why you made the decision to do that, and how that kind of connects to what we're talking about here and the whole like working on ourselves? Yeah, for sure. And we're talking about working on ourselves. And if
and I'm a backtrack just
Yeah,
slightly
of course. I can ramble on, man. So like, you got to reel me in too, bro. I'll keep you on track. You keep me on track.
Right, sounds good. So we talk about your business or a business. If you're listening, if you're a business owner, it's probably common that we have some core values within our business.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I believe that you personally should also have some core values, and they need to be identified and they need to be clear. And what I mean is like, yeah, I kind of, see myself, just, being a person of integrity. Well, it's not a kind of thing. You got to claim it and you got to own it.
Yes,
right?
sir.
So when we talk about, a developing core values for a business, I do believe it's important that we're able to develop these core values as an individual. And, one thing that I contributed 2019 to was me being able to identify what those values are to me. And one of those values is, you could probably tell just from my Facebook post that I'm a very loving person, right? And that's love shown between me and my little guy, myself and my wife, my family, my friends, those that I encounter on a day-to-day basis inside the gym, outside the gym. I believe that if we can show love, if we can share love, we need to be doing that. We need to be giving that away, right? And in that sense, I will tell you, being present as a father, as a husband, is something that was really on my heart when it came to making that decision in 2019. So you talk about loving and present, and I tell you, prior to that, so even backtracking further, 2007, 2018, there were just some very darker times for me, right? Most probably wouldn't know, just because when you're dealing with people and you're running a business, you want to give them your very best. And that means stuffing what's inside of you and just tying a knot to it, burying it, enclosing it, and do what you got to do. So 2017, 2018, I had a low back procedure, from playing basketball to playing soccer to strongman to powerlifting to Olympic style weightlifting. I mean, I did it all.
Yeah.
And when 2018 came, I realized, wow, I woke up and I'm like, man, that doesn't feel good down my leg. And it just was a transpiring, just level of pain that would stay with me for most of the year. And it wasn't until, and with that, you kind of find yourself in the state of whether you're trying to escape the day-to-day pain, whether it's an internal pain, or whether it's a physical pain. For me, a lot of it was a combination of both. I'll be perfectly honest. It was a combination of both. And when I made the decision to come off of alcohol in 2019, I talk about core values and self-values, being loving and being present. Those were two things that alcohol took away from my ability to do, right? And so 2019 came, and I really didn't give it a whole lot of thought. I was like, you know what? This is what we're going to do. And it was probably either a day or two. Actually, it was the night before. I was like, this is what I'm doing. And I just jumped into it and I did it. And the way I came about it, Bobby, it was, hey, I know that right now my relationship with alcohol isn't healthy. One, I was experiencing this pain that was this nerve pain that was, and I can see how I could use that as a way of just covering up or just kind of easing some of that tension. Right. And, so I knew that was a possibility, and I also knew that I didn't want to go down that road.
Nah.
At the same time, things within the business were just very overwhelming, and it was very easy for me to use that as a way to like unwind, and almost to the point where I would leave the gym and I would already be thinking about what I was going to have to drink. I mean, I would have it already in line.
Yeah,
Go
you're like
home.
looking at the menu in your mind, right?
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
As and it wasn't, wow, I can't wait to see my little guy. I can't wait to
yeah.
hug and kiss my wife.
Yeah.
I was thinking about what was on that menu, right?
Right.
I was going to start with a Belgian beer,
Yeah.
and then I was going to transition to, maybe a glass of wine with dinner, and then maybe I'll just have a nightcap of a bourbon,
Yeah.
and it was then when I knew that this could have been a bigger issue
Yeah, right.
with just the right concoction of what I was experiencing physically, what I was dealing with internally, and so
Yeah.
I knew,
And who knows, but it sounds like you could have gotten ahead of something that could have been rather bad. Yeah.
Yeah. But either way,
Right.
I mean, I really can't, and I don't think you can justify when you walk out and you're already thinking about what's next, like what your drink lineup is going to be when you that's the first thing you think about as you're driving home. That was a flag there.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I don't even know if I've mentioned this on my podcast yet, but I'm since December 28th, I haven't had any alcohol this year in 2021. So I'm rocking
That's
with it.
awesome.
And it's funny because, when you look back and, look, I made plenty of mistakes sober. So of course I made some mistakes when I was intoxicated. But it is something that, you start to realize how much time you gain back that is like in the moment, like truly you in the moment time, right?
Yeah.
And I think I hope I'm explaining that properly enough or well enough for you to for our listeners to understand too. Is just like I gained so much in the moment time, like clarity of the moment, the appreciation of every little thing, and so it's been really cool, and it's also been like really bizarre at the same time. Like I've actually like drank some like non-alcoholic beers, which is funny because like Heineken's got this 0.0. I don't know if you've seen this or not.
I have seen it, yeah.
And everybody's like, is that good? I was like, no, it tastes just like regular Heineken. So no, it's not good, but it tastes like just like regular Heineken. So and it's funny because like I find myself doing that more in social settings to make other people comfortable with the fact that I'm not drinking. Is that bizarre?
Right. No,
you know what I mean?
No, I get it 100%.
Yeah.
So, when I made the decision to come off of alcohol for the year, it was, well, I could do 30 days, but I've done 30 days before, when we do like a reset, like after summer, like going into the fall as a gym, it's tidying up your eating.
Right.
And we do that a couple of times a year where we have some of these nutritional challenges, and generally alcohol is not in that mixture. So I've done 30 days. And I was like, well, how about 3 months? And then it was, well, you know what? I can probably do 3 months. I don't think that's
funny?
too far off from 1 month, right? And then I was like, well, how about 6 months? And I'm like, oh man, that might be, but I think I still can do it. So when I posed, I was like, I'm going to do a full year. And then I was like, holy crap, I don't think I can do that.
Right?
And that's when I knew that's what I needed to do.
Oh,
right?
really? So it's interesting. So you made a commitment to the year ahead of time.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
See, I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, I'm going to stop for now.
No.
And so like, so far so good, but I have no timeline in mind at this point.
And it brought a different element to it, Bobby.
Yeah.
It really brought a different element to it because now when you commit to that duration of the 12 months or any duration, you know that, well, there's an end date. So you might be able to lean into that a little bit.
Right.
But then you also know that, if something were to pop off and something came up and like you're celebrating and you would typically celebrate with, whether it's some champagne or, a nice prestige bottle of whatever it might be.
Yeah.
That's not a thing anymore, right? Because you've already committed to 12 months or whatever the time what you're committing to. And for me, that's, we went into it and it was like 12 months. And I knew that's what I would.
Did anyone do it with you?
No.
So it was just, I mean, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Same here. Like nobody's doing it with me. I just decided to do it. So, but it is interesting because you find different ways to celebrate some of the things you would celebrate that way.
Yeah.
You find different ways to celebrate it. And maybe you don't celebrate as often, right? like, you're looking for things to celebrate then, but yeah, that's so super cool. And that was just for 2019. And, but what are some of the benefits and what are some of the impact that you saw it have on your life in general, family, friends, people around you?
Yeah. So I will tell you this.
Business.
Yeah. It was very much a not knowing what to expect from it. So going into it, knowing that this was a commitment that I was making because I felt as if it was influencing some of my values, right? Two specifically being present, and then my ability to show love. Right. And so with that, I was obviously able to work towards who I identified myself with during that year. So that was certainly a benefit. But obviously there's the ability to wake up and be ready to go. Right. And what I mean by that is I would not drink to the point where I was waking up hungover.
Right.
That wasn't my level of drinking. But my anticipation for alcohol was very high. But it wasn't to the point where I couldn't function the next morning. But what I did realize is my ability to wake up and go, and without the lethargic feeling, without the sluggish feeling, was something that I noticed right from the gate. And I was like, wow, this is how I'm supposed to be.
This is how I'm supposed to feel. Yeah.
Up, right? And not having to run to the coffee pot. Right.
Yeah.
So that was very much a benefit right out the gate. From there was my ability to not only wake up and feeling a sense of energy and being rested, but my evenings, like when we have our own agenda, it's very easy to push away the agenda of others, especially the ones that are important to you. And when I was able to alleviate that, it opened up opportunity and time for me to be able to be present for my little guy who he just wanted to wrestle or, just snuggle or just wanted my full undivided attention, not one hand on the shoulder.
Watch my drink.
Right. None of that. And, it's funny too, because I would, I really didn't experience a whole lot of time where I was drinking and him being present. Right. It was generally, he was already in bed. But then that, in return, that just stole time away from my wife. Right. And, if you know Brooke, she's her heart and her spirit is very much deserving of 100% of me. Yeah. And I want to be able to give her that. So there was that, and so just the ability to be present when it mattered the most. And we can look at the ideal of like composition change, maybe like some aesthetics, and there were some slight changes there, but it wasn't it wasn't anything too drastic or too noticeable for me. But obviously there was, like some of the, people talk about the beer belly, Yeah. so then there was a little bit of that you notice, oh, well, heck, the beer belly, that's a real thing, And, from there, I will tell you one thing that I really was able to gather the most from this is my time understanding who I really am. And, when you escape, so there's George as coach, George as trainer, George as entrepreneur, running a business, George as boss, right? Leading a team. And when you're filling those roles on a day-to-day basis, several hours of the day, and you come home and you don't have that time to maybe for yourself, maybe, whether it's just enjoying something that you like to do, whether it's reading, writing, whether it's crafting, whatever hobby interests you, instead of spending that time understanding yourself, you're consuming yourself with elements that don't allow for you to develop internally. So for me to understand who I really am, didn't happen until like that year. And I know that might sound, well, because I'm 38, right? And, so at that time I was like 30, 36, 35. And you're probably thinking, well, if you don't know who you are at 35, then there must be something wrong. And not so much. I would like to be able to challenge that just a little bit too, because when you are constantly in a element that I want to say outside of yourself, because I consider myself to be a servant body.
Yeah.
But when it comes to working on me, there wasn't a whole lot of that time, because when that time came, I wasn't in the state of mind to do so. So now, for me to understand that, but you know what? A lot of times we won't understand that, Bobby, until we put ourselves in the position to understand it, to receive it.
Yeah.
And until you're able to posture your body to receive it, you'll just continue to understand that this is who I am.
Yeah.
And if you're not happy with who you are, then how the heck do you plan on fixing that or changing that? Do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely, man. Dude, so that resonates so deeply with me. And you say like posture your body for receiving it, posturing your mind too, like having your mind ready to receive it. It's so interesting to me because as you were saying, I was like, yeah, he's so right, because like a good portion of my life, I spent my life in this responsive, reactive mode.
Yeah.
And I had to be like, and maybe I can look at certain instances and say maybe not so much in those times as others, but I definitely spent a lot of my time like responding to bills and, the responsibilities that came along with being a parent early and, all those things. And it wasn't until years later, once my business had grown to the point where I could take a step back and like really think about what truly matters the most to me, what do I want from me? Where do I want to take this? And then, the clarity around that is so huge. Now that I have removed and I removed the alcohol from my life right now, right? Like I have not realized, I just didn't realize how much of my life, how much time in my life I was spending without that extreme clarity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was so many times that, in the moment, it's so easy to justify and say, okay, this is fine. I'm not working right now anyway. But what does that really mean? Because that's as if my life mattered less in those moments, or the clarity and the understanding of what I really wanted mattered less in those moments, right? And it's like so deep to really think about when you're in this time where you've like gained all that back. You like realize how much time you sacrificed in the beginning in the first place. Man, it's so crazy, George. Believe it or not, bro, we're approaching an hour.
Oh, that's wild.
Isn't that crazy, dude? Like, I was like, man, okay, we're like 35 minutes in, but we're not. Which means that you'll have to come back for another episode sometime, man. So it'd be great to have you.
I would love to share just a little bit more of what we're doing here in the community.
Yeah, we're not timing out, by the way. We can go for a little bit longer. So feel free definitely to share that too. The other question that we definitely ask all of our guests, and the name of the podcast is the Xtra Mile Podcast for a reason, that like there came a time in my life where I was like, okay, look, what I've done has gotten me this far. Let me try something else. Let me go extra. Let me go above and beyond, the next step, the next level, whatever. And when I started doing that, when I started going above the expectations and I just kept shooting that way, my life started transforming and my life just started changing, and a snowball effect just happened to me. Can you name a time in your life where like going above the expectations, above the standard, and going the extra mile really played out well for either you and your business, or for you individually, or for you and family and life?
Yeah. So I will tell you that it was this past year for the pandemic.
Okay.
For us, where I consider our gym to be an essential business, when we're talking wellness and health, it was deemed as non-essential, and I understand to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So we had to shut down. So we had to shut down, and there was a period of 2 months where we essentially did everything remote. So when we talk about how we pivoted during that time with an amazing team, we essentially took our membership base and divided them in teams, issued out our equipment, and ran our workouts remotely on Zoom. And we did that. And not only did we do that for all of our existing classes, we added classes on top of our normal schedule in order to accommodate to our members.
Yeah.
And so you talk about going the extra mile in that sense, when our CrossFit Dover's ability to be able to pivot during that time certainly worked out in a way in which we were really happy with. So Bobby, that also transitions to going the extra mile with some of the coaching in which I'm currently doing now as well. Looking back, I've operated CrossFit Dover we're in our 14th year, so the last 13 years. And we serve a really awesome group of members there at the gym. When people talk about family, yes, you can probably consider each person that walks in the door as family. Going through that time as well was an opportunity for me to understand who really needs the coaching that I know that I am capable of providing. And we talk about going the extra mile. My space, my business is a brick and mortar, right? And from there, I've been able to transition to a remote coaching, a space in which I do coaching that is now not just local to Dover, Delaware, but it's all around. And not only is it just coaching, but it's coaching of men, it's coaching of fathers. And so when we talk about going the extra mile, I love the people that walk in through my doors and the opportunity that God has given myself and my team to service them. But there's experiences that everybody's dealt with. And within those experiences, we have opportunities that we are in return given. And we can take those opportunities and we can turn them into situations that just benefit those that we have the ability to encounter. And with the coaching that we're currently doing with Own Your Day coaching, coaching men, coaching fathers, it has given myself a further purpose to my coaching. And when you're able to do that, so we talk about going the extra mile, that is the extra mile. And for anybody that's listening, it's taking your situation and your experiences and creating and making opportunities from those experiences that in return is for the betterment of those in which you have the ability to serve. And that's what we've been able to do.
Shoot, bro. It's huge. Guys, this guy, man, I'm telling you, when it comes to like fitness and what he's doing with fitness, it's just the tip of the iceberg on the value that this guy brings to our community, and not just locally, but like he's saying, man, this is this is something that people could take advantage of all over. One of the things that you brought up in the mention of going Zoom, which I really held on to, right, was not just, hey, listen, okay, everything that you guys had before, we're going to put it on Zoom so you can access it there. No, we're going to bring you more.
Yeah.
Right? Let's add value. Let's bring more value than what we were already bringing to you. Now that you guys are doing this from home and you're doing this in, your own locations, let me bring even more to you so that we can all work together to get through this, what is a very unfortunate time.
Absolutely.
This guy, man, you're a rock star, bro. All right. One last thing. I want my viewers, listeners, everybody to be able to follow along with what you're doing in the community. Where are some places, social media, websites, whatever, that they can do so to just kind of keep track of Mr. Dobbins?
Yeah. So right now on Instagram, you'll find ownyourday_coaching on Instagram. If you're on Facebook, if you're a Facebooker, you'll find us Own Your Day Coaching. And as well as we have a group of men, a group of fathers that we have formed on Facebook. It's called Performing Fathers. And in that group, it's just iron sharpens iron, man. When you have the ability to be able to walk alongside, and I say walk alongside because our last effort we did a weekend ago or so, we took about a dozen men and we did some rucking up north in the Newark area. But when you're able to not only have community with men, but when you're able to walk alongside of other men, I tell you, it does something for your soul. So Performing Fathers on Facebook, Own Your Day _coaching on Instagram, Own Your Day Coaching on Facebook. And yeah, that's where we're at.
Awesome stuff, man. I've got some questions that will go offline for it too, because I seen you guys kicking ass with that, man, and I want to be a part of it for sure. I want to get a little bit more involved. So, guys, thank you so much for taking this trip down the Xtra Mile with me and my friend George here. I appreciate you guys, and keep tuning in each week. We're going to continue to do our very best to bring you like-minded guests similar to George here, and just make sure that you guys tune in. We want to keep taking your guys' business to the next level and taking it the extra mile. Thanks, guys.
Your success is on the other side of your comfort zone. See, that's the difference between me and those other guys. I wanted it more than they did. I wanted it enough to get uncomfortable. I wanted it enough to go the extra mile. Do you want it bad enough? Do you want it bad enough to go the extra mile?